Many of you are unaccustomed to putting objects in your abdomen area, and I wanted to give you a little bit more information that will help support you on what to do and what not to do with the hip hook. Now, your abdominal organs are strewed in this abdominal area, and many people are cautious or afraid of putting pressure on them. And in the development of this product, I consulted general surgeons, gastroenterologists, and many other practitioners to really determine if there were any risks associated with putting pressure here. And many of them really explained to me how in surgery or even in manipulation of these organs, they move, they're super slippery. And when you put pressure on the abdomen, it actually shifts them out of place. So the worry around whether I'm going to harm an organ, or put pressure on an organ is really an unfounded concern. Second, when we're placing the hip hook, we're really placing the hip hook in this area, right next to the bone, right? So here's our pelvic bone, we're placing it right in this area, and really all that's here is muscle. If there was a section of the large intestine that happened to be even close to that area, which is very unlikely, as soon as you put pressure here, it would move out of the way. Now, when you're placing the hip hook, there are a couple things that you might notice as sensations that may give you some alarm. And there's a couple things that you want to pay attention to. One is nerves and one is blood vessels. If you put pressure on a nerve, you will feel like a numbing sensation. It might be in the area where you're pressing or could be down in the front of your thigh. If you experience that, simply just need to move the hip hook out of the way. Having a nerve being pressed on for a short period of time is not going to harm a nerve. It happens all the time in everyday life. Second, if you put pressure on a blood vessel, you may feel like your leg is falling asleep, or you might feel a throbbing sensation. If you notice that, move the hip hook. It could be as much as just moving it, teeny, like a millimeter, or a small, just a small little bit to get off of that nerve or blood vessel. Now, there's certain parts of our body, right in through here, this lower part where there are a lot more nerves and blood vessels that you might encounter. And so if you do end up exploring this area, you may want to really tune into what your body is experiencing. So I'll show you this on my body. So when you go to bend your hip and you have this crease here, it's a diagonal crease, and it goes like this. This is that same area where a lot of those nerves and blood vessels are, right in through here. So if you're placing the hip hook lower down into this area, that's where you're going to have to be a little bit more cautious. If you stay, here's my pelvic bone here, and here's that part of the pelvic bone that sticks out the most, right here in the front. If you kind of stay between here, this part that sticks out the most, and a little bit further down, it's about maybe a 4-inch piece of real estate. If you stay within that area, you will be completely away from most nerves and blood vessels. However, there is the femoral nerve that is close to the iliacus. And again, if you end up putting pressure on that and you feel that numbness, just move. It can be as simple as something like this. So say I'm going to lie on the hip hook, and I'm moving it around to try to find the really juicy spots. And say I find the spot, and I'm laying here for maybe a minute, and I start feeling some numbness in the front of my thigh. All I need to do is just move teeny, teeny, tiny bit, and then I'm off that spot. So, this is a new thing for a lot of people, really going into working in the abdominal area. And it's an area that in a lot of cultures is oftentimes treated with absolute ease. So you're, in a little bit of uncharted territory, for what you're used to in your body, but know that you can explore and you can experience what's actually happening in your body with ease.